Okay, so let's get right into this one because it's a pretty wild story that just dropped. Donald Trump has made a personal and very public offer to India's Prime Minister Modi. And it's an invitation to join this brand new exclusive club that promises to solve the world's toughest conflicts. But, as with a lot of things involving Trump, the real story is in the details. So here's the big idea. Trump wants to create what he's calling a Gaza Peace Board. It's a new group of world leaders, and the chairman would be, you guessed it, Donald Trump. And their mission? Well, it's to bring permanent peace, not just to Gaza, but to every war zone on the planet. I mean, sounds pretty ambitious, right?
But that really is the big question, isn't it? What is this thing? Is it a serious attempt at diplomacy, or is it something else completely? Let's peel back the layers and see what's actually going on here.
All right, first up, let's just break down the offer itself. What is actually on the table? So the sales pitch is pretty straightforward. A supergroup of powerful nations all sitting at one table, hammering out peace deals. And this idea came directly from Trump himself. No other country suggested it. He is the founder, the chairman, and, well, the chief salesman for the whole thing. And this is where you run into the first kind of glaring irony that the source material points out. This grand offer of global peace is coming from a leader who has, in the past, authorized bombings in Venezuela and Iran, and has even openly talked about starting new conflicts. It's a huge contradiction that's just hanging over this entire proposal.
And that feeling of contradiction just keeps going when you look at who exactly is getting an invite to this club. I mean, this is where it gets really, really interesting. So, take a look at this list. First, you've got rivals like India and Pakistan invited to the same table. That's a classic high-stakes diplomatic move. But the real head-scratcher is who else is on the list and who isn't. You see, Russia and Turkey are in, but major Western powers, key U.S. allies like France and Germany, they are nowhere to be seen. China also seems to be off the list for now.
And that right there is what's sending geopolitical shockwaves, inviting Vladimir Putin to a peace board, while at the same time snubbing key NATO allies like France and Germany. That is a move that is absolutely designed to raise some serious eyebrows in capitals across Europe and in Washington. It basically flips traditional alliances on their head, and it suggests an attempt to build a totally new kind of power bloc, one that isn't really based on shared values, but more on, transactional deals with strongman leaders. But it's not just the guest list that's turning heads. Oh no. There is a huge catch to all of this. See, joining this board, well, it isn't free. Yep, there is a price tag, and it is not a small one. $1 billion. You heard that right. According to the draft charter, every single country has to pay $1 billion US. That's a one-time fee to get a permanent seat on this board. We are literally talking about countries using their taxpayer money to buy a spot in Trump's club. And this gets to the heart of the criticism, right? It's this fundamental clash of ideas. Things like international diplomacy, world peace, a country's reputation, these aren't products you can buy off a shelf. You can't just slap a price tag on them like it's some kind of real estate deal. This whole approach basically turns geopolitics into a transaction. And look, this billion-dollar price tag leads us right into the next big problem. Because if you're going to ask for that kind of money, you'd expect a really solid, detailed plan, right? Well, the details are shockingly thin. So what we do know from the draft charter that's out there is, well, not much. It confirms Trump is the chairman. It says the official language is English. And the official seal, that's going to be decided by the chairman. You start to see a pattern here, right? It's all about centralized personal control. But beyond those little details, the charter is completely silent on the most basic, fundamental questions. For a start, where is this board even going to be based? Washington? New York? Mar-a-Lago? The charter doesn't say a word. And is this whole thing part of the United Nations? Absolutely not. The source is crystal clear on this. This is a completely separate organization, controlled by Trump. And that raises all sorts of questions about its legitimacy and, frankly, what it means for the future of the UN. And here it is, the billion-dollar question. Literally, who is watching the money? I mean, if dozens of countries actually pay up, we could be talking about 50, maybe even $100 billion. With zero accountability structure, what's to stop the chairman from using it to build, I don't know, a giant lavish Trump peace office? So when you put all these pieces together, the lack of a real plan, no financial oversight, and all the power in one person's hands,
It starts to look less like a serious peace initiative and a lot more like a power play.
And all of this brings us right back to the central question for a country like India. What should they do? This is a genuinely high-stakes decision. The arguments are pretty compelling on both sides. On the one hand, can a rising global power like India really afford to be left out of a room where big decisions might get made? They can certainly afford the fee. But on the other hand, do you really spend $1 billion to legitimize a chaotic, unaccountable plan run by a leader who is famously unpredictable and might be praising your biggest rivals the very next day? It's a real dilemma.
And the pressure is definitely on. The source mentions that some countries like Hungary have already said yes. They see it as a way to get a seat at the table with a world leader. But the decision of a major power like India, well, that's going to send a much, much bigger signal to the rest of the world.
So that's where things stand. A truly bizarre offer, $1 billion entry fee, and a massive geopolitical gamble. And it leaves us with one final thought, really. If this decision was up to you, what would you do? Would you have India join the club, or would you tell them to walk away?